The Red Sox unfortunately lost, but they also gained yesterday as well. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and baseball is back, ladies and gentlemen. The Boston Red Sox play their very first game of spring training just a couple of hours from when this video comes out. Absolutely exciting. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Before that happens, though, we got to talk about something that went down yesterday in camp with both an injury as well as a minor league signing that seems small but may end up having a big impact. And I think we got to start with the signing itself. Alex Cora yesterday in a press conference did a little bit of a cheeky thing. He just sort of happened to offhand mention that the Red Sox were looking for some bullpen help and still putting some feelers out there. Well, Alex Cora loves doing that, and a couple minutes later, the Red Sox, or it was announced that the Red Sox had signed Matt Moore, a left-handed reliever, to a minor league contract. Now, Matt Moore is actually a pretty veteran experience in a major league clubhouse. He's had 13 seasons in Major League Baseball, and overall, if you just look at the baseline statistics, not exactly the world's greatest pitcher. In those 13 seasons, he has a 4.39 ERA with an almost identical 4.38 FIP, a 1.385 WHIP, which is kind of high, honestly, mostly due to a fairly high hits per nine that sits career-wise at 8.6 per 9 inning, and an ERA plus of 94, meaning his career ERA is about 6% below the average production. Not exactly an ace the Boston Red Sox signed here. So why did the Red Sox sign Matt Moore to a minor league deal? Well, for that answer, we do have to dive just a little bit deeper into his statistics. Nothing crazy, but because Matt Moore has spent a significant time in Major League Baseball as a starter and less time as a reliever, if you take a look at just the relief option statistics, there is a much different story going on here. As just a reliever in Major League Baseball, his ERA drops to a 3.64 with a lower 1.212 WHIP out of the bullpen in 245 innings. In that time, he was also holding opponents to just a 218 average and a 692 slug. That's pretty solid from a reliever on the mound, right? Those are pretty good statistics. On top of that, his strikeouts also jumped from an 8.1 per 9 innings as a starter to a 9.0 as a reliever. His best relief season in a major league uniform came semi-recently. It was back in 2022 with the Rangers, where he had a 1.95 ERA in 74 innings. Not only is that a lot of innings, that's a whole lot of production as well. The FIP during that season was at 298, and the ERA plus was at 205. That's 105% better than your league average reliever. So again, you go back to just simply the league average stats or just the stats in the back of the baseball card, it's not exactly anything to write home about. But when you dive just a little bit deeper, right, you dip your toes into the statistical water, if you will, just a little bit, you can kind of see why the Red Sox may have been interested in picking this guy up. As a reliever, he is a much better pitcher, and the Red Sox could always use a relieving option. But the big question here is, Corbin, why are we making a kind of solo video here about a minor league signing? Normally we group these together. We talk about the big safety net, right? Every minor league video I talk about building that safety net. Well, this is a little bit of a different case. Matt Moore, in my opinion, was not signed to be a safety net for the Boston, but to kind of be that MLB or bust minor league signing, and there's one big reason as to why. The reason why I believe Matt Moore is sort of this MLB or bust minor league signing, which we're going to break down in a second, is because of some unfortunate news. In the same press conference where Alex Cora got a bit cheeky by saying they signed someone without actually saying they signed someone, he had to announce that Zach Penrod has been dealing with a pretty serious injury. He mentioned it as elbow soreness. He got an MRI yesterday, and now I don't have the results of the MRI at the time of this recording. Odds are, with Alex Cora talking to media before the 105 game today, we're probably going to have an understanding of what this MRI results is by the time this video comes out. So if you want the most updated information as humanly possible, check the comments. I should pin the comment if we get any more information. But as of right now, what information I do have isn't exactly the most optimistic information in the world. In fact, according to Andrew Parker, who is a fantastic minor league reporter, he mentioned on Twitter that from what he's heard, he was told that the concern level is pretty high on Zach Penrod's elbow. To me, this is clearly bad news. It feels like over the next couple of hours, or by the time you're watching this video, we're probably not going to get very encouraging news about Zach Penrod's MRI, right? Guys don't typically have high levels of concerns going into an MRI and come out of it just needing a couple of days of rest. Now, I'm not going to sit here and speculate and come up with theories that aren't actually reality. It's just simply not an effective use of time here in this video. But I will say it doesn't exactly sound like Zach Penrod's going to end up with that Nick Pivetta thing, right? If you remember back on opening day in 2024, Fenway opening day specifically, Nick Pivetta was scratched. He had elbow soreness. Everyone's kind of freaking out, and it ended up being just some inflammation. All he had to do was rest and rehabilitate, and he was back on the mound within a month. Maybe that's the case with Zach Penrod. That particular statement right there doesn't lead me to believe that is the case. It sounds like, and again, I don't want to put this out there, it kind of sounds like a T and a J might be involved in the upcoming future. But again, not exactly fact, just pure speculation at this point. And this kind of sucks, obviously, for Zach Penrod, who had just broken major league rosters for the first time in his career, was just on a 40-man roster coming into the spring for the first time in his career, a guy who was really fighting for a roster spot this spring, a guy I really hope is able to recover and get healthy as soon as humanly possible, but also for the Red Sox as well. They do have one legitimately certified go-to lefty in that bullpen that they picked up this offseason in Chapman. They did pick up another left-handed reliever in Justin Wilson on a major league deal, but there was a little bit of debate here as to whether or not they'd carry a third lefty reliever or whether or not Justin Wilson's spot is even guaranteed. You had Bernardino, you had Penrod, and to some degree you had Chris Murphy as well, who's back and healthy after Tommy John surgery last season. Hopefully he is healthy and ready to go, but my guess is he's going to start the year in minor league baseball, so not really in that mix, but definitely a name to pay attention to this season. But my point in all this is that Penrod, I think, in my opinion, had a legitimate shot at making the big league roster this year, or at least an outside shot at it, right? He had some major league experience. It wasn't a ton, but it was 4 innings with a 2.25 ERA, meaning he basically gave up 1 run in those 4 innings. He did walk 3 people in those 4 innings, but he was striking some guys out as well, and he was looking really good velocity-wise. There was some legitimate potential in my mind for 2025 and Zach Penrod, and the fact that he's out is obviously going to affect the Red Sox plans as they head into the 2025 season, which all leads me back to Matt Moore. If you remember back, I can't remember if it was 22 or 23, but when Raimel Tapia was signed on a minor league deal, it didn't feel like a big signing at the time. However, what we found out is that the Red Sox essentially said, look, Raimel, if you come in here and you perform well during spring training, we're going to put a spot for you in the Major League club, despite the fact that you signed a minor league deal. And that's exactly what he did, ended up on the Major League roster and a bench piece for the Red Sox for part of either the 22 or 23 season. Again, I can't remember. To me, this Matt Moore signing feels eerily similar. It feels like this is a deal where the Red Sox come to Matt Moore and they say, look, it's kind of either, like I said, MLB or bust. We're going to put a spotlight on you in spring training. We've got potentially 1 open left-handed spot left in this bullpen. We're going to come at you and we're going to give you everything we got. And if you can swim and not sink, we're going to potentially put you on this Major League roster. I also have a funny feeling, now the actual full contract isn't out yet, but I have a funny feeling that Matt Moore has a few opt-outs in this deal that would allow him to go back onto free agency and potentially make a roster somewhere else pretty early on in this season if the Red Sox don't put him on this 26-man. So the reason we're making a solo video about this Matt Moore signing is because I do think this has the potential to be a legitimate impact player. If Matt Moore comes in here and we see that either 2022 season, which might be a bit of a stretch just simply because it's kind of an outlier in Matt Moore's career, or if we see maybe more realistically that sort of low 3s ERA reliever that we've seen from Matt Moore over the course of his career as a reliever, there's a legitimate chance he is a major league player with this Red Sox team, and I think that's super important. One of the other things I think this kind of indicates is that the Red Sox aren't incredibly pumped about their left-handed pitching depth. Bernardino has been solid in the past. He was solid for the first half of the last season, but he really lost it in the second half and couldn't couldn't find it again. You obviously lose Penrod, and then you've got Chris Murphy as well. There's some other non-roster invitees who are left-handed. They have a much more outside shot of being an impact piece here. But to me, this indicates that the Red Sox either aren't fully comfortable with Justin Wilson, or they want that competition, or two, they aren't fully comfortable with Bernardino either. And to me, that's incredibly interesting because they were still pretty high on Bernie being able to get back to himself last season. So the fact that they're bringing someone in pretty immediately and not just being like, okay, we'll find a minor league deal, someone again to build out that safety net. Instead, they go and they grab a guy like this who has legitimate major league experience, and they say, you two are going to fight for it now, not you and Penrod. I don't know. Maybe there's some hesitation here to put Bernardino into a spot with this Red Sox team. I'm just speculating here, but it does pique my interest because of how quickly this signing happened. One thing I will say is that if Matt Moore does make the major league team, I'm very, very interested in this. He's an experienced reliever. We love that in a bullpen that is very young. Well, kind of young right now. You got Hendricks and Chapman in there, but outside of that, a very young bullpen. You've got a guy who's had really, really good peak seasons, and you also have success as a reliever. So there's a lot here, and I'm kind of hoping that the Red Sox just found a bit of a diamond in the rough. If they're not comfortable with Bernardino, they clearly see something in Matt Moore that they think they could bring out of him and create or recreate that kind of elite level pitcher that we've seen in the past. And that gets me pretty excited. So very, very interesting signing here with Matt Moore. I think this is absolutely someone we're going to be paying attention to in spring training. It kind of makes this Red Sox bullpen competition all that more exciting. There are, 11 names fighting for maybe 2 spots in this Red Sox bullpen. That is a whole lot of competition, and it makes spring training, at the bare minimum, very, very interesting. So absolutely a name to keep an eye on. Again, with Zach Penrod, it sucks. I feel terrible for him, and I really hope he gets better as soon as humanly possible. Still hoping for the best news, kind of expecting the worst right now. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think of all this? What do you think about Matt Moore signing? What do you think about the Zach Penrod injury? And how do you think this impacts the 2025 Red Sox? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, if you guys want to listen instead of watch these episodes, the best way to do that is to head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.